The first 4 episodes of Rings of Power are out, but people don't seem too excited. Even though the show has broken records for Amazon original viewers, it seems that people aren't that into the series as a whole halfway through season 1. There's a lot of controversy around the show, which doesn't paint a good picture either. Here's what we know about why audiences just don't seem that interested. To start with, the show couldn't get an exciting start. Hey, we knew that the show was spilling with controversies before it even came out, so the fact that it got bad reviews when the first few episodes came out isn't really a surprise. Even the show's content was enough to dazzle everyone. Maybe things would have been different, but sadly, Rings of Power failed in that category too. There is no area where fans have consistently given the show high marks. The scores haven't even gotten better as more episodes came out, which sometimes happens after the first few episodes bomb or are met with skepticism. On Rotten Tomatoes, we're seeing a 39% audience rating, while IMDb has rated it 6.9 out of 10. We're pretty sure the show itself was expecting high viewer ratings, considering they spent $465 million on just the first season. Coming up, people are upset it's not following Tolkien's lore. It's not news that fans of J.R.R. Tolkien have always been very traditional and conservative. This kind of makes sense, since The Lord of the Rings is a story that is sort of trying to preserve a lost and idealized past. Peter Jackson's trilogy may be well liked by most people, but it was hard to win over diehard fans who seemed almost angry that the books were being turned into movies at all. It's crazy, but a big chunk of these fans were kind of glad the series isn't doing well, because at least now their books and their stories weren't going to get violated. Okay, come on, this also means that the diehard fans didn't watch the show in the first place either. There are some people who keep defending the show, saying that it does in fact follow Tolkien's lore in many places. But the real question is, does the show need to follow previous rules in order to be a good show? Many people have also been very quick to point out major problems with the story. For example, Galadriel has a new goal in the Rings of Power, which was not in Tolkien's canon. The show spent a lot of time showing her closeness to her brother Finrod. There's a scene where the older elf told Galadriel in secret how important it was to touch the darkness. What's more, competing against House of the Dragon doesn't help. Rings of Power and House of the Dragon are both expensive, have epic fantasy worlds, and are of 2 competing streaming services. Both shows may be doing well so far, but the fact that these 2 shows started streaming almost at the same time means people can't help but compare the both of them, and it turns out House of the Dragon wins. House of the Dragon is considered the best show overall, at least based on these early episodes. Rings of Power has a very wide net, catching places and people from all over the world and weaving them into a long, low story arc. It has a vague villain in Sauron, but it also has to deal with a huge amount of well-established Tolkien history, and it's been hard to make interesting characters in that space so far. House of the Dragon, on the other hand, quickly and clearly sets up its conflict, which is a good old-fashioned power struggle for the crown. Sometimes simplicity is the key. The characters in Rings of Power also aren't as well written right away, whether you're supposed to like or dislike them. So far, Rings of Power is just fine, but House of the Dragon has become an instant Sunday must-watch. Another problem is that the show has made a lot of changes to Tolkien's world, and fans are arguing about those changes. It's easier for House of Dragons to make changes because they don't get as much pushback. Lastly, the show still has time to get back on track. It's still not clear if Rings of Power will ever be able to change gears and win everyone over. They might have had a rocky start, but halfway through season 1, the show is starting to bring the characters closer together. Maybe more storylines will cross over and we'll see more big battles, but so far the show hasn't been as successful as Game of Thrones, which is what Amazon wanted. We're not saying the series doesn't have fans, because it does, but it'll definitely need a much larger fan following to keep it up and running. What's clear is that Amazon is in this for the long haul, and we expect them to see their ultimate vision for the series through, unless there's a huge drop in viewers, which we doubt will happen even after all this. They are committed to the project, but maybe they will listen to the feedback and make some changes in future seasons to make the show more appealing to the kind of viewers who seem to be turning it down right now. And now for some other related news you might have missed out on. First up, Rings of Power won't take any more racism. After receiving a lot of racist attacks, Rings of Power on Amazon Prime Video put out a statement on Twitter saying they won't ignore or put up with the racist threads and abuse that some of their cast members of color face every day. When some actors were added to the cast of Rings of Power earlier this year, they were immediately criticized because of the color of their skin. People have said on social media that the show's diversity is wrong, and that doesn't do justice of Tolkien's Middle-earth. After the show's premiere, there were a lot of negative comments, so Amazon Prime tried to prevent review bombing by taking away the option for viewers to comment. People have had different reactions to the post. Some people on Twitter have thanked Rings of Power for saying that racism is wrong, while others have said that Rings of Power is being picked on because it isn't very good, not because it has characters of color. Up next, Ring of Power's composer brings a pleasant touch to the show. Barry McCreary wrote the music for all 8 season 1 episodes, and boy, he did a good job. He tried to create a unique sound that was influenced by Howard Shore, but didn't feel like a repeat of what he had done before, especially when it came to the Harfoots, the Hobbits' ancestors. According to him, the Shire theme that Howard Shore wrote evoked nostalgia for a specific place, but that's not what they were going for in Rings of Power. McCreary liked the way the Shore used British and Celtic folk music, but he also wanted something else that was more nomadic and took people somewhere else, so he used West African percussion. He wanted the Harfoots to have a natural feel, so he focused on the idea that they would make a music instrument out of a log they found in the forest. That makes it different from the British folk music heard in Lord of the Rings, which reminds people of an 18th century ideal of homes and farmhouses. Finally, HBO will fix a VFX mistake in House of the Dragon. People who watch Game of Thrones closely have noticed a visual effects mistake in last week's House of the Dragon episode. Hey, we're getting this year's Starbucks cup mistake. In Second of His Name, the third episode of Season 1, King Viserys gives a letter to a soldier in a scene. Someone on Twitter noticed that the king's fourth and fifth fingers are green in the episode. It seems that a visual effects editor did not edit out the green screen effect on the fingers, and we caught it! Viserys has cuts on his body that he got from sitting on the Iron Throne. This is shown in the first episode of the show. In the second episode, he cuts his pinky finger and the Masters use maggots to keep what's left of his flesh from going bad. In the most recent episode, it looks like the two fingers were supposed to be changed so that they were hurt or just looked like stubs. HBO is going to fix the mistake on its streaming services. This isn't the first time a visual effects mistake has happened in Westeros. Back in 2019, Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 4 showed a scene with Daenerys Targaryen sitting in front of a table with a takeout coffee cup that looked a lot like a Starbucks cup. Fans noticed the out of time and place cup right after the episode aired. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on Rings of Power not being able to get their audience excited up till now? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like these. See you in the next one.